Hi there. Did you know that Willie Nelson wrote Crazy? You know the song that Patsy Cline is famous for singing? I did not know until just now that it was written by Willie Nelson. So I'm going to copy it. I want to get a copy of this. It says high quality, but YouTube doesn't provide high quality audio. But if the quality's decent, then you can pull it out. I have a trick for that. Come on, pick it up. Pick it up. Didn't pick it up. Yeah, maybe best to wait for that. Oh, it did get it. Okay. Let's see. Only the audio that matters. This one seems to have the highest. Yeah. What am I doing? Well, in thinking about all this aggregation stuff. In fact, one of the things I did, you might have noticed, the project. Oh, here's my trick. Watch. You take that thing, you just download it from YouTube. No. Take this and use the magic program, any video converter. Although maybe I can use Avi Demux as well. Doesn't matter about video. And change this to AC3 and bump up. See, it's not going to be 48 kilohertz. It's going to be 44.1. See, it's quite high data rate. And if you bump up the actually 192 looks good. Bump up the sampling frequency. Keep the same data rate or higher. AC3. Now this is just going to make a video, but there's no it won't encode any video. It's just only encoding will be the audio. Yeah. Oh, got in there. This should be almost instant. Oh, what have I got for? Well, the frame rate shouldn't matter. I picked it up anyway. And now I have a video which will actually sound better, believe it or not. Well, this is constant. Maybe I could have gone higher. Let me pause this video so I can listen. Well, they both sound pretty good actually, turns out, but I'll keep the Dolby anyway. This one with normalize, I had the normalize feature on. How shall I say, with the normalized thing on, it tries to raise the lower sounds and cap the higher volumes. So the lower volume sounds are raised slightly and the higher volume is capped so that you don't get it doesn't have too much as much variation. Sometimes that's a good thing, especially for picking up the softer sounds, but in this case didn't help, and they both sound about the same. But anyway, this is not really a video. I mean, I don't know what happens if I extract the audio. What kind of file? Now, what is it? AC3? Try that. Well, it's configured. Sorry, just a sec. I have to pause this once more. Yeah, it's very good, very good. I'll go into my audio music library. Vocal, male. I don't have any Willie Nelson. Johnny Cash. I need more. Sorry, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about here. I'm trying to get to. What I've been trying to get to, having to do with this thing called aggregation. During my pursuit, I wrote a little program to download an entire web page that has to do with something called Com+. In fact, I uploaded it to my source directory online. Okay. And this here talks about, at one point, talks about aggregation. Now, it shouldn't take any time at all. It's local. Okay. So I've been reading through it. I started here and next. And eventually got to here, merging libraries, essentially. Now there's something called containment, and then something called aggregation, which are two separate things. One, you can sort of tell by the picture. Completely replace the interface of another. And aggregation is a case where you export more than one interface. In fact, your object, the aggregated object, will contain two unknowns that can be selected out, right? And they're not the same pointer. They couldn't be the same pointer because just like with virtual functions, function tables, you wouldn't be able to cast a class object, a pointer to one class that has one virtual function table as another type of class that has another type of virtual function table, because their tables won't match, right? Like function number 3 would be different to, say, in the case of com, the first two functions are always the same. Addref, the first three, addref, release, and query interface. But then the next function is either going to be a function of one or the other of the objects being aggregated, right? Now it might be that if you made a C++ class and did a similar thing and derived from both classes either linearly or side derivation, you would require two virtual function tables if you wanted to pass someone a pointer to one or another type of object that has virtual functions. Anyway, because the function tables are data, right? That's part of the data layout, basically, of a virtual type class, a class of virtuals. Well, anyway, looking at this made me think that, well, what I'd like to do is just make my own COM, right? And see how I would go about this aggregation business using these kinds of diagrams if I had my own model of COM using C++. In fact, there's no doubt in my mind anyway that these things were developed in C++ and then translated into the COM, IDLs and all that afterwards. Because that's the easiest way. That would be the easiest way to develop the ideas. Now, this web page, as I said, I downloaded from the internet using my HTTP client code, right, that I have. And when I was, if you recall, the first example where I created something in C++ and at the end said, in a nutshell, that's COM. The example was an HTTP client interface, right? So I thought that's a good place to start. So I went back to that project. Here it is, if you recall, my HTTP client. This is new. What I did was, in the project settings, I know I've said over and over again that you should use the dynamic runtime, but you don't have to. You could still use the static runtime, and I wanted to because I wanted to be able to use common and stuff in my DLL. That means that it has a runtime library all on its own, and it wouldn't be shared with somebody using the DLL. Code generation is just multi-threaded debug, and you'll notice that's not it. Including common here and linking with common and using the TS string and so on. Well, TS buffer. But I still need to expose like allocate and free as before. Now the COM business, the part that's stealing sort of from either from COM or from what I've done before works this way. Here's this global header file, okay? It defines an interface. These two, oh, that's good. These two functions I presume I would put into a class, perhaps called maybe IUnknown or something, or my IUnknown. There's no query interface. That's done through the same mechanism as before. Although these needn't be exposed. In fact, I could put I could create another file and hide this because I don't use it, right? in where I'm making one of these things, but I never called the function returned from the DLL. I'm not supposed to know anything about that. I want to make it seamless, like common. So what I did was in common, okay, I have TS Windows and I have common, and now I've added a third static library called device manager, okay, which now this here, oh, that's common H, right? So there's a device manager H that is exposed to the outside world. It doesn't have much in it. It has one function, create device, and that's a template function. So depending on what type of pointer you pass to it, it creates the appropriate type of device. Okay, and here this causes the lib to be included, just like with common H. Right? Same thing. Now the device manager is going to figure out what function to call, from the DLL and call it. Now, also here, not in common, I've added a new directory. This would be an equivalent to this DLL test in a sense. Okay, but actually I'm not sure if it should be here or somewhere else. In any case, that's where the interface header files are for the various devices that I might. COM has components, we'll call this the device object model, where everything's a device instead of a component, let's say. Here is one implementation of this interface. We've got that here. Now, what I could do is add a header file, an internal header file to this, not visible file, dev manager, or globals or something. Call it just devices. Now, internals, globals. Call it that. Okay, and I would like to take this here out of here and put it here, so it's not visible. So I don't have my usual. There we go. It's a different year. Whoops. It's not DLL name, it's defines interface for client implement. Okay, so that's all the outside world sees. No specifics. This header file contains specific information about the interfaces and the functions that retrieve interfaces. I should have called this interface by something. Anyway, global stuff. It's not global. In fact, it's the opposite. Internal. This section is HTTP client. Okay, fair enough. Now this doesn't need to be. This could be static. Now I could just do it like that. Only one file is going to include this, I think. So this tells me how to retrieve one of these things given a DLL, and only this guy knows about it. And by putting it there, that prevents someone from having to do the work, do this work. Some of this I could put in that same header file. All this part would be the same for any device, right? This could be a T, but anyway, I'll fix that later. In fact, we could turn this completely into a template function, and put it in this lib, this static lib. All right. So let me just show you how this works. It's going to come out of the registry. Where is it? Oh, here. Maybe? No. Devices. Those devices. It didn't go to the root of here. They went somewhere. Oh, here. Let's see. That's not correct. How can I get this wrong here? Namespace base should be this. Right. Okay, I think it should be this. Like that. With this blank. Device is, according to this, would have been a base key name from current user. So current user software. No, not even, just current user. So this is correct. Now this name can come from, if it was a template function, I can use my template get object name template function, or get type name, without having to use RTTI. If I wanted to, I could do it right here. Like that. This here, I know what that's going to say, but when this is a template function, this would be replaced with T, you see, but it'll still get the right name. Similarly, might as well set it up. So I'm ready to go. There we go, so that means so this create device attempts to locate the DLL from searching in the registry, believe it or not, hopefully under Alan Carr Inc. debug devices, and then the name of the device. It should find an implementation DLL path. Sound familiar? A U-test here declares one of these objects. No. That's true. That should work. Oh no, star. There's two P's, I need two stars to get rid of them. It would just be T if I made this attempt. I should make it, I should put it right there in that. I can put this in globals.h and just replace all these with T, whatever. Why did I put brackets around here? I don't know. I have a feeling. Yeah, there is no external linkage. It's a static. Remember that thing I told you about before? You have to, if you want to put select any, you have to put extern, and I took the external away. Now, it's, even if this is null, it shouldn't matter. Right? The thing is not evaluated. Right? It's not accessed. It's just this function is a template function, and it examines its own name. Well, I'll run up to here. I'll show you the code in a second. I just want to make sure this is right. Struct. Okay, that's not what I want. I want to do this. Well, it might be struct or class. Let's put them both. I guess. Not very efficient. And maybe save this on. It came back correct, if you notice. Okay, now utest. Utest just declares one of these objects to know and calls create device. Now I'm using my actual internet code, so this is not a faker call anymore. This is actually, although this isn't used, it does try to connect to this website. I have release. I don't want any destructors or anything in the declarations, so I have to use a release mechanism. Then I'm trying to get a web page and saving it to a file in the temp directory, and then shell execute the file I downloaded, disconnect from the server, release the client, and it's all transparent. There's nothing to be done. So this works. Just like com. With the added benefit, by the way, and that's something I want to demonstrate with that other com thing, is that you know that I implemented co-create instance and all that all on my own and used com calls, correct? So that means if I wanted to, instead of saving those keys to HKey local machine something or other, I can put them under current user so that they're just for me. Dev name IHTTP client. Now I try to see if this registry key exists. Now create it. Now I'm using the open file name thing. This would be the only done once. Asking the user to locate the implementation DLL. And that would be debug build. Okay, and I'm saving that as okay. Devices here in the default string. So the HTTP client interface is here, just like com. Now I'm getting it again. Usually, most of the time, it wouldn't go in here. So I do have to get that string out. It's not empty. I load the library, and now using the internal knowledge that I have, I'm getting this procedure which will retrieve for me from the DLL a HTTP client object. I'll call that function. Okay, it's just like before. And that succeeded. Now I'm going to connect. I'll step into this. That's why I wanted to include common, because I wanted to use these things I already have. This thing has a connect to server, and at the same time I'm maintaining the server name, so assign that here and try to connect, and it did connect, no problem. Now I'd like to read a web page from that site, so I declare a pointer to characters, and it's the same function as before. I happen to know that there's something called inside com/index. So request, this is going on the internet. It worked. Retrieve the response. Okay, that's a buffer. You haven't seen that, but you can see there's HTML there. Less than 1. If the size is 0, return false. Now I could say malloc here, but I figure best to use the function. Use the same function in case I want to modify this. Then I don't have to change it. I only have one place to change things. I allocate the size of the buffer plus 1 extra tcar for a null terminator, and then copy that into. It's this. The size is the size of the buffer returned, and I've malloc just enough plus 1 extra byte, which I am using to null terminate the string, and just like before, assigning to the thing pointed at by that by this pointer the contents that I just read. That worked. Now I'm just getting a temporary file name here. Okay. Open the file for writing. Write the whole thing in one go. Compute the string length. Just write it. Free the buffer. Right. Now, if I don't do this, I don't get memory leak reports, which again shows that there are 2 runtime libraries around. Oops. No, it happened. I pressed something. Shell execute. That should bring up this. There's the file name and the data that I just downloaded. Why this takes a while, I don't know. So there it is. I don't have the pictures. I didn't download the pictures, but it's got all the text. This is what I downloaded. Okay, these are relative paths, so none of these things are going to work. But it's good that they're relative. Now that here page is the same page that you saw before. No, not here. Index. That's this page, but without the picture. Now you'll notice that this code here is not particularly difficult to use. Disconnect from the server, release the client. I'm keeping a reference count. If this goes to 0, it did, I'll delete it, turn the number of references, and I'm done. Okay. Now I got some kind of exception. That probably occurred with the shell exec. When did that happen? Let's try it again. So everything's okay so far, right? I'm saying open, maybe that's not the right word. No, that's fine. Maybe it's this. No. What is it? It's something that happened later on. It's probably something to do with this HTTP client. Just disconnect or something probably doesn't work correctly. Maybe one of these handles was not valid. Not important. So now what I'd like to do, now that I have my own com, here's one object. I'm going to invent another object and see if I can do this aggregation thing. What would I do if I wanted to make a third object? It's the combination of two objects wherein one can obtain a pointer to one or the other of those objects according to the description of how that works. According to the description I read here, which is that you make, essentially you have two ion nodes, you make two objects inside, and each of them contains a pointer to what's called the outer object. Okay, you've heard this story before, and so they know how to locate. Each one would know how to obtain a pointer to one or the other of those interfaces, given that they know what they call the outer unknown object. They would be at definite offsets from within the containing object. This is something I've done to death before, so it shouldn't be any problem. And then we'll see how that translates to this stuff. Okay. All right. That's what I'm looking at. I'll see that code again. This time, if I run, well, I did run it again. If I run it again, it already knows the DLL now. It should just work without prompting for. It didn't prompt for the interface DLL. And I'm going to put that code into the template, and whether or not, to add a new class, right? All you do is add a new header file, right, into this file, or either a new header or a new class in here, and call create. That instructs the compiler to build a second or third version after I templatize this. More and more versions of this function that use different strings, that have a different message, right, and seek for a different DLL and store it in a different registry key. And everything will work by simply declaring the existence of such an object. All of this will automatically happen. All of the steps that put this here will not have to be recoded into the script. You just need to recompile. Okay, well, I'll upload this code too if anyone's curious to look at it. See you.